Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Maryland Apex Accelerator webinar today. Hope you're all doing well. I'm your host, Yasmin Razak, and I am the Marketing and Training Coordinator here. And today the topic is something that we get asked about a lot here at the Apex Accelerator, and it's how to find and bid on contracts valued at $25,000 or less, otherwise known as simplified acquisitions. So we are going to have an expert who's going to walk us through it today. Her name is Akeisha Foster, and she's the founder of Key to Life Professional Services, LLC. We'll get started shortly, and you can ask Akeisha your questions by typing them in the chat box on your screen. And we will try to get through as many of those as we can throughout the next 2 hours. As always, with these 2-hour classes, we will have a 5-minute break at the top of the hour. And of course, a copy of the slides and the recording will be sent to you after the event. For those of you who are new to the Maryland Apex Accelerator, it's our mission to help Maryland businesses to compete in federal, state, and local government procurement processes on services on no cost to you. So if you think you need help and you're ready for help, please complete our application form on our website, marylandapex.org, and register today. All right, that's enough for me. Good morning, Akeisha. It's floor's yours now.
Okay. Good morning, Yasmin, and good morning, everyone. All right, let's get it started. So welcome to today's webinar training. And what we do is we aim to give you a good understanding, especially our startups and our new small business just getting started in the GovCon space. And what we're trying to do is teach you how to understand the official government databases. And this is going to increase your chances of winning contracts, okay? And these classes, we've designed these classes purposely to just keep building on the concept, so that way you're getting baby steps, just like when you go to the university, right? We start off, we go to orientation, then we freshmen, then we're sophomore, junior, and then we in college. We off in the races, we priming everything, we're doing it. But I want to teach you how to start with the baby steps, because once you become overwhelmed, I've had many come to the classes and in those counseling sessions, then they're overwhelmed. So that's why we've designed this training this way. All right, now this training and its accompanying notes. Remember, the notes are designed to give you the heads up. So remember, practice and then do. So we're going to do all that. Now, one of the easiest ways is you have to learn how to use those. And we're going to really focus on SAM.gov today. Okay, and then also I'll have some other websites, database that you need to be familiar with as well. And then last training, we focused on how to find what the government is buying. And that was the effective market research. It was a deep dive into building your market research. And I always like for y'all to see what we did in that training. So I always have my little we built these folders. All right. Then you have your GovCon training notes. We were talking about the capability statement link, but we also know that SBA has updated the small business, the dynamic search up to, it's called the small business search now. And so we're probably going to have to do a training for that. So in that training for how to find what the government is buying, effective market research, I apologize, we went over these. But I want you to see that each training builds on the next training. That's why it's important that you attend these trainings. And if you can't attend the live sessions, then you just go back and watch the replay. And we have our YouTube channel. So you are able to follow us on YouTube channel, on the YouTube Maryland Apex YouTube channel. And then what I did was I started like many of you, just brand new, started my business, didn't know where to start. So I started with what I had, the Gmail account, and then those free tools. So that's where we started in that class, on starting from there. And now we're here today. We're going to bid on those contracts. We just started our foundation. Now we're adding on to it. And as my business grew, I gradually upgraded my systems. And that's what I want for you. Gradually upgrade your system because you want to keep that your capital low. And so when you're looking at your profit and loss statement and all that, you want to keep as many of the expenses low because you're going to have to pay those subcontractors that you're bringing on or your employees and so forth and so on. That is why I teach you how to do each step so that way you're prepared. And you don't have to do everything perfect on day one. Just get started. That's all you need. Get started and you can refine as you go. Okay, so I wanted to hit on that. You know who I am, your instructor, president, CEO, been in the government sector over 22 years now. I'm a coach, a former contracting officer and specialist, and a former Apex counselor. So I'm telling you, this is the stuff we've been working on. These are the things that I learned. You got to just get ready. And, you know, because sometimes that's why I always try to stick with it because it's so much I want to tell you, but I just got to make sure I stay on the schedule because I want to make sure we keep on the training. All right, next slide. Okay, so so I'm going to do a quick poll. How much do you know about finding government contracts under 25K? So I can kind of gauge the audience. This helps me tailor the examples. It helps me to just give you those explanations so that way I can fit the group because some of you may know a lot, some of you may not know a lot, but I want to kind of give a little brush for everyone. So that way, when you leave here, everyone has had a few nuggets. Okay, so basically most of you, a few of you have not done it before. Some of you, about 27%, a little bit. And then about 40% of you've heard it, but you haven't tried it. And then 30% of you, this is new to you. So you're going to gain a lot from this training today. And I'm happy that you're here. All right, today's training. Okay, so my goal is for the day's training is that you have a step-by-step playbook on how you're going to pursue these government opportunities. All right. Then we're going to talk. I want you to stay engaged. Make sure you ask the questions in the chat. And if something doesn't make sense, please let me know. So that way, because we gave this same training last year in 2024 around the same time. And these are the questions and some of the common questions that we had received from that training. And that enabled me to refine the training, add more slides, add more examples, because I had so many good questions that I had to just implement in the slide. I had to change pretty much the whole structure of this slide because I wanted to answer every question most small business had. And I kept getting that same questions. Now take notes. Remember, pull up that little Word document. Remember, we created this doc. All right. You pull up your little notes section and then you put slide 1, slide 2, slide 3. Take those notes. So when you get a copy of the slides, you already know, okay, you put all your notes on there, you print your slides out, keep asking questions. And so when you get in your session with your counselor, you already got your notes ready. Everything is ready to go. Now, think about your own business. All of these examples we're going to go through. Ask yourself, how does this apply to me? You know, because this training is to help you and apply it to your business, okay? Then you want to take action this week. This training is just about learning. It's about doing. Start small. Just one step is a win, okay? Because, you know, I believe in a 1% more. I mean, just as long as you're moving, that's good. And then stick with the series. Each session is designed to go deeper. And that way you have the confidence, okay? So that's what this slide is. I mean, this training is for. That is the goal. And then teaching you how to do the save searches and then knowing if a job is a perfect fit for your business. So that's basically what it is. And that's how I want to keep everybody on the same sheet of music so we know what's going on. Okay, next slide. All right, so these were the common questions that I received from the last training. All right, the first one was, where do I find these contracts? Now, We're gonna walk through SAM.gov. You will find some of those on SAM.gov, but it's not the only place, because when you have to find a new contract, I mean, sometimes because it's under 25K, they might not even publish it. They might just go out and get 3 vendors and submit and ask them to submit their quote. So that's why it's going to be important to build relationships. And we're going to talk about that. All of these questions will be answered in the slides, because all of these questions helped me develop these new slides, because it was just so much good information that we received. All right, now what if I'm brand new? We're going to answer that. You still can do this. You still can bid. And that's why I'm recommending that you start with micro purchases and then build. Now, then we had, can I bid without past performance? And we have a whole 2-hour training on this subject as well. Yes, and we'll show you how to write a response that focuses on your capabilities. Then this was another one. What's the difference between a sources sought and a solicitation? One is a heads up. Okay, I'm letting you know, hey, we got this opportunity that is about to come out. We need y'all to respond for it. And then the solicitation is, okay, now this is what we want. Okay, we've already put your heads up. We let you know this is what's coming out. And then solicitation is, now we want you to explain. This is the real request, and we want you to explain how you're going to provide this service to us. Okay, and do I need a GSA schedule? Now, because we all know the administration change that happened about, right? They're trying to move more to the GSA schedule. So although you're not going to have it right now at the start, but we're going to start preparing you for it, because you're going to need it. And even if you don't get on the GSA schedule, then it's important to get a team and partner who is on the GSA schedule. And that's going to be paramount, because if you can get a partner that is on the GSA schedule, you're going to use that as your past performance anyway. And so the real question is right here. These are the real questions that I received from last year's training. And I'm telling you, if we just get to the point of answering these questions, you're going to be better off. So that's why I always make sure I'm answering the questions that was placed. And then you're going to see that in the slide that's coming. Okay, so now, because of those training, I had to focus on areas for beginners. Okay, so let's break these down. Okay, so you're going to focus on contracts 25K and less. And the reason, and those are namely micro purchase. So yes, it may be simplified acquisitions, but the simplified acquisition threshold, if I'm not mistaken, right now is 250,000. But to me, you need to focus on micro purchases, because yes, it's 250,000, but you're competing with everybody. You don't have the past performance, and we want to focus on building your past performance. That's why I always say micro purchases first. Then, because that's a great start. These are small, quick jobs that don't require full proposals. You're not ready to write full proposals yet. So that is why I'm always talking about micro purchases. We want to do the RFQs. We want to look for sources sought notices and those RFIs. Because many times I'll have small businesses, what they'll do is they'll send their capability statement out. Okay, well, why are you sending out this capability statement? And we continue to do it. Okay, but why are you sending it? Because as soon as you send it to the contracting officer or the program office or a small business, they're going to ask you, okay, so what are you trying to do? So that's why I always recommend you look for the sources sought notices and the RFIs, because that is the way you can get to the KO, the contracting officer, because you're filling a requirement. You're filling a requirement. You already know they asking for janitorial services, or they try, but sources sought notice is more for the technical too, because you'll see this more for technical responses. So maybe they're looking for a technical expert who can do their IT, some kind of new initiative and stuff like that. So that's why I always say read the sources sought notice and see what it's asking for, and we're going to walk through that. And those you want to find on SAM.gov. So like I always say, I like to show you, this is interactive. So you're going to find that on SAM.gov, and you're going to go to the SAM.gov, and then you're going to go under contracting. That is where you're going to find those. Once you go under contracting, you're going to hit the advanced search. And then you're going to, so if you've already identified what agency, for this example, I'm going to be using Department of Defense because I want you to understand how it starts from the beginning to the end. But if I keep changing it up on you, then you're not going to know. We're already going to know. So we know Department of Defense because I've already took my little SAM search notes as I get started. And we know Department of Defense is 9700, Department of Defense. So the reason why I keep my notes is because you're going to have to do a copy and paste it a lot. You don't want to have to keep retyping everything. So that's why I always keep my little notes. If this is my save search notes, then I'm going to do that. If this is my notes for you, FPDS, then I'm going to keep my notes for that. USA Spent, all the different databases have your little cheat sheet. So you already know how to do it. It's your little step-by-step guide. Okay. Basically, you're building your step-by-step guide. So let me go back to it. So then we're going in here to SAM. We're going to hit 9700, right? That is Department of Defense. And then you pull up Department of Defense. And remember, we said we're looking for the sources sought notices. So we're going to go to the notice type. We're going to hit that drop down. And then we're going to click on the sources sought notice. And normally the requests for informations are always in there. Sometimes they're not, or they could be under the pre-solicitation. And then you click that, and then you see you've narrowed it down, and you see it's a lot of things out here. And this is where you're going to keep going to look for those sources sought notices. And we're going to talk about this more as we continue the training. But I want to keep us on the training because we have limited time. Plus, I want to still give time for questions and answers. And it's a lot we got to cover. Now we want to pay attention to the set aside notices for small businesses. Because if you're a woman-owned small business, then basically you're looking for woman-owned small business opportunities. But now you have to be certified. So you got to go through the process with SBA to certified as a woman-owned small business. Now, me, on the other hand, I'm a veteran-owned small business. So I certified as a veteran-owned small business. So when I go back to SAM, I'm looking for veteran-owned small business. So then I'm going to take it another notch down, and I'm looking for set-asides. I want to look at the set-asides if I'm a veteran-owned, and I'm only looking for veteran-owned. So you know we got the total small business set-aside. Of course, I'm looking for that. A partial small business set-aside. And then I'm going to also go down here, and I'm going to look for, so that way you can narrow down. So if you click on it, you see how it populates in there. The small business partial. And then I want veteran-owned small business because I'm a veteran. These are all the things that qualify for me. And I don't really want to look at anything else. So then you would just click those, okay? And then that's going to narrow down the search. But say you wanted to work with an AA company, then you want to look at all the AA opportunities out there because you plan on offering your service as a subcontractor to an AA. So now you see we've narrowed down that search. And now we get to see what they're buying out here. This is what they're looking for, solicitation. So then you're going to have to open up that document and read it. Okay. But that's in another training. But right now we're just doing an overview, basic overview, showing you how to get started so you can keep diving deep. And then the next training, we just keep adding upon the training. So you keep moving. Now, I always recommend stick with one agency at a time. And today our agency of choice is Department of Defense. And because you're going to see all the offices that fall up under there, you're going to see it's a lot. It's a lot. And then Department of Navy, Department of Air Force, and so on. So, I mean, that's a lot to keep you busy right there. So that's why I say stick with one agency at a time. And then use SAM.gov and the data banks report for a deeper dive. That's where you're going to learn more information. And that deeper dive, this is going to tell you who's buying what, from whom, and then this, you can use the data to plan your approach. You know how they say your strategy or your approach, or how you planned on keeping up, finding these opportunities. And then the technical terms, because I want to make sure you understand the technical terms. So when I say SAM.gov, that's the website where the government posts jobs it needs done. So that's why I said I had to be clear now, because we have a lot of new people in here. The SAM.gov is a website where the government posts jobs it needs. Okay, now when I say contract opportunity, that's a job or project the government is offering to a small business or large business or medium business. Okay, now when I say set aside, the jobs are saved for small businesses. They could be veteran owned, like I said, woman owned, and so forth and so on. And then when I say the NAICS code, all that means is a number that tells the government what kind of work you do. That's all it is. So that's why I wanted to make sure you understand this is the focus is for beginners. And then when I say PSC, the product service code, that is a code that shows the government what you sell or a service you offer. Now, I normally put those in the, I just normally just explain it to you and tell you what that thing is, but sometimes you have to just understand. So let me hang that up. Oh, they still calling. Oh, I apologize, team. They still calling. I done hung it up. Next, we're going to talk about the simplified acquisition, a faster and simpler way the government buys things. And that's what we're talking about today, the simplified acquisition, because this is usually for small jobs under 250K, but we're focusing on small buys like the 25K. And then right now we're talking about the micro purchase. Okay, so next slide. Now let's talk about what kinds of jobs can I get. All right, this was another one of the good questions. And so it made me want to break it down for you even more. So like when you're looking up those jobs, to make sure that it's in there, you have to know the NAICS codes. You have to know the PSC codes. And those are the codes we're about to talk about now. And then, so I just put a few of the professional services job. Okay, so now these are some of the jobs that the agency that I know that they're buying. So you're going to look up. Now, these are some of the things you do in professional services. This is how you look them up. Okay, so first of all, you're going to look up the job to see how often does this agency buy this product or service. So in this case, it's going to be a service for professional services job. And it's about 7 slides on this because I wanted to show you the different ways of doing this. And the way you get this, I broke that down in the last training. The training I gave on how to find what the government is buying and effective market research. So I'm only going to touch on that here and show you those websites. But if you want to know how we got from the NAICS codes and the PSC codes, it's in that training. And the websites for that is, and all of this will be in the notes. I put everything in the notes section so that way you don't have to look for them. That's going to be under the United States Census Bureau. This is where you find out about those NAICS codes. And because I like to dive deeper, and then you download this book, and that's in that training as well. So you download, view, and download the publication. But I'm a visual person. So then I go over to NAICS code identification tool because I want to look down even more. So say I'm going after, let's do the IT or the information. So then you click on information and you see how it's bringing everything up. That's how I was able to find those typical services. That's the first step. And then now I'm going to go to verify in SAM.gov, are they actually buying? You see? And then which agency is actually buying the motion picture and video production, if that's what I do. Because we're looking for quick wins. Or say you're a person who does book publishing or publishing software publisher. So now I'm going to look in here for software publishing. This is how you break it down and find out what your NAICS codes are. So that's why I use both of those websites so I can see. So let me go back one more because I want to show you one more example. So say you do professional technical services right here, then you click 54 and then they're going to pull up the rest of them. Okay, so you're legal services, you're a lawyer, maybe you want to do notary. There is so many things that the government is purchasing. Or maybe you do tax, maybe you do payrolls or accounting. You have to identify first, what is you do? Then you have to get your industry code. Then now that you have your industry code, now you're going to go get your product service code. And all this was talked about in that training. So now you have your product service code, but then, no, by the way, I like visual. Remember, I'm a visual person. This is our official website. I goes here too. The PSC selection tool. All of these links you will have access to. And then because I'm doing professional services, I'm going to click on that. And then they're going to start listing everything out here so I can learn a little bit. Okay, so I'm doing legal services, or I'm doing management and advisory. So I'm going to hit legal services, and you see how it's giving you the PSC code. So that way, you know, for legal services, they normally put it under Romeo 418 or that R148. So when you go in here to do the SAM search, you can put that information in here, because now that we have it, so we've got our set aside. Now we want to look at, we got our PSC, see, product and service information. Then you're going to click down in here and start entering that information. So say we did that legal services. So now I'm going to use that code for that Romeo 418. I'm going to put that in here. Oh, I apologize. Let me go to the right slide. Here it is. Romeo 418, and then see if it's in here. 8. There it is. And then now all you're going to see is the legal. Who's buying it? In Department of Defense. You see what I'm saying? Don't just keep going after stuff and you haven't seen if anybody bought that service. No, I checks everything. I'm verifying, I'm checking, I'm making sure. But now say we want to look if they did any past, then all you do is scroll all the way down and look at inactive. Yes, they have. You see what I'm saying? These are ways to just verify that they are actually buying this, and they bought it back in 2020. This was in 2020. They bought it in 2021. They bought a few in 2024, and so basically six results. So now if you only going after this with the Department of Defense, now this is only for Department of Defense, under Department of Defense. Okay, now you could go to Veteran Affairs or anywhere else and look up in those different ones once you have identified with agencies. But if you was just going after Department of Defense, this is how you find out. Okay. So that's why I wanted to show you that. Let me go back to the slides so we can stay on target, because we're about to be at the point. So I'm gonna take questions. Okay, so then I gave you an example. So for admin support or data entry, the typical range is from $15 to $45. Uh-oh, let me go back. I clicked on the button. Uh-oh, I apologize. There we go. So I got to stop clicking. And the reason why I say that where I get that information is from, I don't just pull it out the ear. So the first thing I do is as an agent, I go look at GSA labor category ceiling rates. So that website, and that is where you get all that information. Okay, let me take you there. Right here, the pricing, that's the pricing right here. So then you want to go down here and start looking for, so how I know it was $15 because I went in here and checked. The administrative support starts at $15, okay? And the education that's high school. So then how many years of experience? 0. And you just keep going out. But say it was a driver and courier, $15.38, and that's high school, right? And then it's 1 year experience, okay? So this is how you check your pricing and your rates. That's how I wanted to give you a good example of how to do that. So you can look landscapers, guards, help desk. And so that is how you get started with finding these 25K, because you got to first know what you're going to offer. What am I going to offer them? And then let me see if they're buying that service, that micro purchase service, because if they're not, you're wasting your time. And also, you can also sell to your prime contractor, but you got to know what the rates are. So this is a way of getting your rates. And we're going to continue to walk through this. Okay. All right. So that was one example. And you'll see through these next few slides, We're going to go through each. So the reason why I say what kind of jobs I can do. First of all, we already talked about, you got to be able to, how often does this agency buy the product and service? But next thing, the reason why I say micro purchase, it has to be a manageable scope. All right. Can I fulfill this requirement independently with no assistance? All right. Can I do this work by myself? If you cannot do this work by yourself, then you're going to have to bring in another subcontractor, another employee, or something of that nature. Sometimes when you're first getting started, you got to self-perform. Now, once you self-perform the work, then you'll start learning all the nuances. You'll learn the eaches and, well, no, I can't do this or this. I have the capacity for this, or I have the capacity for that. You see what I'm saying? So this is how you start research and learning what the different jobs are. Okay, then the reason why I say that, so now that I know I don't need no assistance, this is how you learn how to manage a contract. Okay, so once you're managing a contract, you've done the invoicing, you do all the things, you're going to have to send those reports in because they're going to ask for it, those monthly status report, different things for different jobs. Okay, because you'll know what all is. So then you'll lower your entry. All right, the entry barrier. The goal is to look for contracts that are often require less complex bidding processes, all right, making it easier for new businesses to participate and win. So don't go after nothing complex. Keep it real easy, something really graphic design, branding, market research. Maybe you just want to be the person that does the market research, the technical writer, whatever, and then go research and see how many times they've bought it. Because yes, you can want to do that, but if they're not buying it, it's mute. Okay. So that's why I added that example for you to see. So now let's go to the next one. We were talking about professional services. Now we're going to go to what kinds of jobs. Now we're talking about IT and technical. So what I recommend that you go and look every last one of them up. If it's in your area, then you see, okay, what's the PSC code? I've showed you how to look that up. And these are basic jobs. And then you can do it part-time. If you take a full-time job and you're the one who's self-performing, who is going to be finding the rest of the work? And then how are you going to live off just 25K? You see what I'm saying? You have to be able to take a couple of jobs, right? So that's what we're thinking. Okay, I need about 2 or 3 jobs. Because if I do 2 or 3 jobs, then you got to take about them taxes and all those other things. You got to add all those things in to see how many jobs do I need. So then you're going to be able to see how many hours do I have to be able to perform this job. Because see, we forget about all those other things that are going to take place. So that's why I have to walk you through this, because there's more to it than what you think. And then, so say you're doing SharePoint. How many SharePoints can I possibly support? Can I support 2? Can I support 3? Can I support 4? And then maybe I'm going to do one for the Department of Defense. Maybe I'm going to do one for the Veteran Affairs and so forth and so on. So that is how you get these small jobs, but you got to see what's all involved and how many hours. Is this part-time? Is this as needed? You're looking for roles that's as needed or just part-time. So that way you can get this job and then still be building your business at the same time. And not all of your hours are taken. And now you don't have any time to really think about, okay, what's the next step? How I'm going to put this new plan together and stuff like that. So like I said, I didn't pull these out of the air. I used the GSA labor category ceiling rates tool to get these different, the pricing. So you'll put the pricings and everything down there for yourself. But I just wanted to show you an example. Next, we're going to talk about the maintenance and facility, because these are small projects that you can do, and you can do 2 or 3 of them, right? You don't just have to do 1 or 2. You can do a couple of them. And then the HVAC, the plumbing. Then I was thinking about other things we could add, like flooring, roofing, renovations, just little projects that you can take about 4 projects, 1 each quarter, and so forth and so on. So you got to think like that. You got to think about how many I can do, how I'm going to do it, and then get that one first so you can see what's all involved, and then rinse and repeat, because that's the goal, right? The goal is to start small and then continue to define and refine your services. That's the goal. And then to learn as you keep going. All right, so we talked about maintenance and facility. Then office supplies, for those of you who sell stuff, office supplies, toner, furniture. I mean, that's a very good way to get little small buys. And they're normally with the DLA, but because things have changed. And with our new administration, you have to go look it up. You have to go see if they're still buying it. They're trying to consolidate everything at GSA now. So it's just so many things have changed. That's why you have to you got to keep doing the research. You got to keep looking stuff up so that way you can pivot. As the administration pivots, you have to pivot, because if they're not buying it, then you're not getting paid, and then you can't pay your people. Okay. And then the next one is health, education, and events. CPR, you got that. If you wellness, and then go in there and look at those customized training for people who've been in the military, or people who in the commercial sector where they offer specialized training. Go see if the government is buying that specialized training, because I've seen them do computer training. I've seen them do so many different types of training. Then you customize that training and say it's a one-day workshop. You only have to go in there once. So how many can you do? How many workshops? Is it in the local area, or do I have to travel? So now you got to include travel costs. They're not going to pay you for your travel costs. I'm telling you now. So that's why you need to stay within the local area. You want to look at the perimeter. Okay, can I get here? And how long is it going to take? How much gas is it going to take? So when you're thinking about these training classes, because that's a great opportunity, and that is not full time. Remember, see, we're looking for things that are not full time. We're looking for stuff that's as needed. We're looking for like, okay, they need a consultant, CPR, training specialist, expert to come in and just run the class. Or they need at one of these locations on post where they do the wellness, yoga classes, workshop, the catering for different food events. Oh, maybe they only need me to just do events, setup, and breakdown. Is that your area of expertise? And then if so, who's buying it? So you go validate all the NAICS codes, you validate all your PSC codes, and you always check in SAMs. You're looking at your active and inactive. Okay. All right. And then, so what our goal is, like I said, to get a couple of them. So that way you're building that past performance, and you're getting those opportunities. Now, if you win it directly, that's prime. So that automatically you're setting yourself apart as a prime. But if you get it from a prime contractor, so like you work for the prime contract, then that's a subcontractor, but that's still past performance. But it's different ways you can do this, and you can get started. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then logistics and admin, same thing. They got the courier, local deliveries. Maybe you just want to be in that area, and then they only need you to come pick up packages on Monday or every Sunday or whatever not. Now the moving and relocation, not so much, but they do have, maybe they only want you to be the person to come in and pop, because when you was on moving, and so you had people that would come in, just do all of the boxing up of the person's home, and then you had another person who would come in and move them. See, it's so many different things, but too many times we don't think outside the box. We just keep it, and there's different pieces to play, and then you can offer your service. Call the transportation people and say, hey, you need somebody to come in and do all the boxing for you, and this is how much we can pay, and this is how much we charge, so you can see how much they're going to pay, so you know how many jobs you can take. All right. So you've got to think outside the box. You have to do your research, and you have to look them up. And I'm about to close on, because I'm about to take questions, because I wanted to finish this before I moved on. And then the construction and engineering, right? So minor construction, there's so many things you can do in minor construction. You just start looking them up. And then the handout that you're going to get. So the handout, and then engineering services. Minor. Remember, everything we're doing is micro purchase. We're thinking micro. Just like I'm the one that come out and do estimating, or I'm an estimator, or I'm a survey. I do surveys. Remember, everything we're thinking is micro. Is not very complex. Is one task or a few tasks in there, and I can do this, and I can focus on this. Get this one thing. We're trying to get that one contract, and then rinse and repeat. So now the handout you're going to get for that is, the handout is right here. So I put it in a Word document for you, or you put it in your Google Sheets. And then what you do is every time you look something up, you can add boxes, you can insert check boxes, that whatever, however you want to do, add another column if you want, and put your notes in that section. Hey, I looked this up, or I got my assistant looking this up, or whatever. Okay, so, and then when you want to add, you just hit that box and you add another one. Oh, I found something else. And you put that under the professional service. But if it's IT, then you put it under IT, because remember, you're building your repository. You're building, everything you do is intellectual property, right? This is stuff we're building for our business. So, oh, by the way, I seen an opportunity come up for graphics design and branding. That's what I do. And then I'm gonna go back and look at my sheet to see what notes that I put, who was buying this, whatever. Okay, do I have a agency profile on this? Okay, have I been researching them? Do I have a contact over there? Do I have a relationship with that contracting officer or that PO? If you starting off cold, it's like a cold outreach, right? They don't know you. They don't know you from Adam. They don't know who you are. So do you really think you're going to win that just by the relationship? Now, if you have a relationship and they know you do good work, I've been building my relationship, so I'm doing all this stuff all this time, then I'm ready, right? So like I said, so you will be getting this handout. You add on it, you take away, you put all that information. Then you can even add the pricing. So all you do to add a column, what you do, boom, you hit that, add your pricing. Everything we do, it should be just adding value. Now you can put, hey, I want to add my pricing. Because too many times I'll tell people to do stuff and they still don't understand what I'm saying. So I was like, okay, bet. So let me start showing you. Let me walk you through the entire process. And then, oh, you're like, oh, that's what you meant. That's it. That was it. Yes, that's all I meant. And then putting them notes in there, keeping up that section. So when you get in that counseling session, you ready, everybody's feeling confident. And then you're making those steps forward. Every time I turn around, you're moving forward, and you're not stuck. Okay, so now we're gonna pause. Let me make sure I covered everything before we move to the next slide. And so for questions, because I want to make sure I don't just do all the talking, but I'm listening and talking. But I want to keep that thought, because I don't want to get stuck and then now I forgot what I was talking about. Okay.
Thanks, Keisha.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll pause for questions.
Yes.
And I'm going to look through the chat and read out the questions. And if you think of any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Okay, so first one is, let's have a look. My husband and I have a small business. We are both minorities, but we are considering changing the dynamics of the business to make me 51% ownership to bid for select contracts. Is it hard to make these changes?
Well, when you say to make these changes, it has to be a reason why that y'all making these changes, because you've been seeing these opportunities post up and you see it's more, you making a business decision to change. So that means you're going to have to update your operating agreement, because they're going to want a copy of that operating agreement. You're going to have to prove, because once they start digging deep, they're going to say, okay, you're saying I'm 51%, so that means mostly you're going to be making the decisions, because when you say I'm 51%, that means I'm the person who's making the decisions as far as why we're doing this. Then they're going to want to, and then should you have the certifications? Now, if you saying I'm 51% and you don't have them certifications or the experience to back it up, they're going to want to know why. Are y'all, oh, you only doing this just to change it? But if y'all model fits, you got the certifications, you got the experience, and then you've seen those opportunities out there, and it's more business. It makes businesses to switch over to that certification. By all means, do that, but make sure you consult with those eligibility requirements. You have to look at those requirements. And then when they ask for those supporting documents, because they're starting to do a lot of digging when people say I'm woman owned, now you got to prove it. When you say I'm veteran owned, now you have to prove it. And if you're saying that I'm doing 51%, they want to know, okay, so you're a veteran, You're making the decisions, and then do you have other certifications? So say you in construction, because I'm gonna just use construction. Okay, you better have all that construction experience at 51%, because then they'll say the other, you just using it as a pass through. What we don't want is being used as a pass through, because then they're gonna come back for you later. They're just saying, we just saying this because we want to get this contract, so we're gonna just switch this because we want, the contract. So just make sure whatever decision you make, you can substantiate it with the supporting documents, and that you are the one, in fact, making the business decisions, because you 51%.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question is, what's the difference between a total small business set aside and a partial small business set aside?
Well, because normally when they say a total small business set aside, that means it's just for only small businesses. But sometimes when they say partial, that means it's a large business, but they just cutting off a little chunk for small business. They want to make sure the small business get a little piece of the pie. And I don't see many of the partial small business. Normally they just use the subcontracting plan. They require that the prime use the subcontracting plan because it's over a certain dollar threshold. But if the contracting personnel wants ensure that the small business is getting a little piece of the pie, then that's why they did a partial, because they know all the large is coming for them. No small business can do it, but they want to get a little piece of the pie to the small business. So that's when you'll see normally partial small business set asides, and not the subcontracting plan, which is different.
Okay, thanks. Next
Mhm.
question is, are there direct solicitations via email? I believe that direct solicitations are spam, but how does a new business owner weed the credible ones from the suspicious ones?
Okay, the way I do it is, because you're gonna get I'm telling you, we've even had so sophisticated, you think it's from the contracting office, but it's a scam. Is the first thing you got to do is go look and check to see if it's valid. Like, looking at the address. Because what I do is I'll take that address, go Google it, and look at that address. Because normally they're putting out there all those spams, because especially with the Maryland, they'll let you know when there are a lot of spammings going out there, and be on the lookout for this email because it's spam. And then go look at the organizational chart. Is that person's name on that organizational chart for that agency? Or where did this name come from? They just pulled it out there, because there is definitely a lot of that scam. So what you're going to have to do is just validate this is a actual requirement. Don't call that number on there, because they be change the numbers and it's a lie. But you can look up those things on the agency website to see, first of all, if that person is on that organizational chart. And you can even call or send emails. Hey, do you know anything about this? And then proceed on. But do not respond to those spam looking emails, because it's definitely, they have gotten a lot of people with those spam emails. So be very careful, very diligent. Go to the website that they're claiming it to be and verify everything.
Yes, you got to be very, very
Yeah.
cybersecurity conscious, and we have
Yeah.
lots of cybersecurity classes on our YouTube channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Should we do a couple more questions, or did you want to?
But because we're almost at the top of the hour, and I'm going to do slide 15. So then we're going to stop at the top of the hour, because then we're going to be doing a lot of more the practical walking through it. And then I want to give them time for more questions, because it's a lot.
Okay, so we'll go back to the presentation and come back to the questions later. Okay. Thanks.
All right. So then now we moving on to, how can I come up with these prices? So remember, we started off, how can I come up with these prices? So we went to the buy at gsa.gov, and on that buy gsa.gov, they're showing you do not exceed these rates for services across the industries. Because what I see too many times is we'll put those high prices on there, and we'll price ourselves out of, they'll just say you're not competitive. You can't even bid on this because you didn't outprice yourself, because that's not the growing rate for that. So that's why I said you have to go to the buygsa.gov and make sure you do not exceed those services across the industries. Now, based on those GSA scheduled contracts, which are trusted government pricing source, it helps you to create those realistic competitive bids. All right, because you got to know how much you're going to charge. Then once we figure out how much we're going to charge, we got to know our break even, because you still got to pay all those expenses. Do I have to, if you're doing the janitorial, do I have to buy supplies and services and so forth and so on? So that helps you with, then, oh, by the way, with the janitorial is square footage. Okay, so now we got to figure out the square feet and all that other stuff for those. And then you have to go visit those sites, do those site visits so you can price it appropriately. Because many times you've been pricing thinking nothing is in the way. Then you get over there, they got cabinets in the way, shelves in the way. So now you got to get people to move stuff out the way. It's so many things you have to think about when it goes into pricing. So now we need to get somebody to help us with moving equipment, and then we got to put the equipment back and so forth and so on. So that's why I always tell you, do your research. Then you can use it to make your own pricing, right? Basically make your own pricing. So I want to talk to you about this pricing. Okay, so let's go to the pricing tool again. So I told you that is the buy.gsa.gov. All right, so now let's talk about it, because you got to understand how the government prefers to pay for its work. All right, so now you're going to hear the contract type, time and materials. Okay, you're going to hear that often, time and materials. And what is time and materials? All right, how it works is you build hourly plus the materials. You build hourly plus the materials. Why do they use that? It's best for flexible work or unclear scope of work. All right, so you're going to hear that all the time. So that's why I always tell you, go in here. You can put your experience level. You can use all this. Go in here. You can look. You can put in their contractor, customer, both. I mean, it's just these. You have to learn how to use these tools. So they have plenty of videos out there on YouTube, so you can find out how to effectively use these tools and make sure that you're getting your pricing right. And you see they updated regularly. This is updated, constantly updated regularly. All right. So for example, now the time and materials will be used. So let me go back to my slide, because let me make sure let me go to the next slide. I think I put it on this. Okay, here we go. Why agency love hourly contracts. Okay, so agency love hourly contracts, which are time and material contracts. So if you see that, I don't want you to be alarmed with a time and materials contract. And contracts, because they're easy to fund, because you're sustained. Okay, we already know the time, and we already know you told us what the materials is, and that way they bill you. But when you use time and materials for those are for flexible services, and those are for, like, remember I was telling you, those as needed, and what we only need up to 20 hours and so forth and so on. So that's why it's important to understand that. But the fixed price, the firm fixed price, is one price for the whole project. They don't care if you went over, they don't care if you went under. All they care is that you give them a clear deliverable. And one example of that is the time and materials. So say, okay, the job is $45 an hour for admin work, but you can't, the max is 20 hours. Okay, that's it. That's it. You can't go over 20 hours. They're not paying you overtime. They're not doing anything. And that's what they mean when they say time and materials. But say they're saying now we're going to do firm fixed price. That's, oh, excuse me, that's $2,000 for a one-day training, right? If that's what the training, because it could be like 300 people in the, and then you're training. We don't know what it is. So 2,000 could be your travel. That could be your setup. That could be, we don't know what that is. They don't even, they're not asking you. They just want you to come and do this one-day training. And this could be computer training. This could be all those specialties. So maybe you're doing ships, boats, whatever training that you're coming to do. That's what they're going to want. And you know you're going to have to do curriculum development. You're going to have to do slideshows. You're going to have to do PowerPoint. You're going to have to do a lot of different things. So that's why I tell you, it's important that you understand what you're putting in that pricing, because that is what they're going to hold you to. So time and materials is the hourly. That's the hourly contracts. But if you see firm fixed price, then we know that is the price that you're having to pay. So when I'm going to show you where that is right here. Okay, so let's go back to the SAM.gov. So let's open up one of these opportunities that we saw in here, but I want an active one. So now we're going to take off the support services, all right, because we want to get an active one. Now, say this one right here is looking for the water well treatment. So you open up, we already know, they're already telling you that this is with the Department of Defense, because that's what we're looking at, but it's with the Department of Air Force. Now, if you're not trying to work with Air Force, then this is not for you. But if you are trying to work for the Air Force, then you need to make sure you have a agency profile or how to do with business with the Air Force. You've already did the doing business with the Air Force. You already have a POC over there. You already know how they work with their small businesses. Don't just reach out haphazardly and haven't done the research. So let's go into now we're going to go in this one. So that way you understand what I mean when I say the different things. All right. So we already know it was with the Command Air Force Global Strike Command. All right. We know this is a source of SALT. This is an opportunity that they're trying to see if someone can fill. All right. You see when I told you, is it a set aside? This is a total small business set, because they feel like small businesses can actually go after this for themselves. Right. So then they're telling you what the product service code is. If this is not your product service code, then don't go after it, because they've already told you what service they're looking for. And then they already told you the NAICS code. And then they're telling you what the place of performance is. Okay. Then you've went through and read it. You've downloaded the source of SALT noted. You read it to see that, can I do this? And this is what you're going to respond to right here. You're going to send them a response. This is how you respond with those capability statements. Can you do this? And you would just download that information, read the opportunity to see if you can respond. And this is how you respond to those sources SALT notices and RFIs. And they don't ask for much, and each one is different. Okay, so that's one. I got one more to do before we go take our break. All right, so let me go back one more time. Okay, so now they got times. This one just came up right here. This is with the U.S. Special Forces. This is a pre-solicitation. All right, you click on it. If this is the service you do, time zone navigation software licenses. All right, so then you're going to keep looking at other agencies to see how many times they bought time zone navigation software licenses. Because you remember, we're only looking for micro opportunities that we can bid on and that we can win. Okay. And if we can't win it by ourselves, then we need to be looking for a subcontractor that will partner with us and that we can possibly win. Okay. And you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to go through this opportunity. This is a pre-solicitation. That's the same thing. That's before the solicitation comes out. That's just like a source of SALT notice. It's just different. Okay. It's the same thing. They're telling you this is a total small business set, because we look for only small business set asides. But in the event that is not a small business set aside, and then sometimes they'll tell you what type of contract, because I want you to see what those contracts look like. So that's why I want to do one more before we go. Okay, for our break. Okay, and then I'm going to take away the small business set, because I want you to see what they can also look like. Okay, so now we're going to go to a source of SALT notice. Okay, and we just seen that one. I want to go, this is a modification with Navy. And then the same thing applies, because I wanted you to see one with the contracting. Now this one, they don't even have the NAICS code in here yet. They're still trying to figure it out. And that's why they're sending it out, because they want you to add the missing pieces. So like, should this be under NAICS code? What? When you respond to those things, these are some of the questions they be asking for you to, because you're the subject matter expert at TSUD it. And then you just read it to see all the information that you need. And then now they're even using Chat GPT. Now, because everybody's you copy that description, you put it in Chat GPT and tell it, hey, send this summary, give me a summary of what it but you got to check it, because Chat GPT is just like anything else. It is prone to having errors and all that. So you verify that, in fact, that information is correct, because we are moving into the AI. You can't sleep on it anymore. You got to start doing stuff quicker and faster. And that's it. So at this note, I'm going to stop right here before. So when we come back, we're going to finish up on why agencies love hourly contracts.
Okay, thanks, Akeisha. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay, let's get it started. Okay, so now we're going to walk through our little example using the labor category ceiling rates tool. Okay, so we already talked about the time and materials, 45 hourly for admin work, max 20 hours. And then we talked about the firm fixed price. So that way you could start thinking about, how does this apply to my business? When the contract says it has to be time and materials, okay, what is my rate? When the contract says firm fixed price, you're going to use that same thing that you'd use to create the time and materials, and then just apply it to the firm fixed price. Because just know, if you go over, they're not compensating you for it. That's a firm fixed price. This is what we're going to charge. So when you go into the tool, because I want to make sure you understand the tool, right? We're going to put in here for whatever. So say we want a master's, right? We're going to put the master's in there. Okay. Then we have our master's. How many years of experience? You're going to put your 12 years of experience, or whatever your years of experience. So then that gives you the range. You see that? You get the range, because they're telling you right here is from $50 right down here. It's saying, because a few of them in here is down here, that they can go all the way up to $451. But the average, because the government, they're going to pay you the average. So if you go up to $311, right, or $152 for the same job, but if they're looking at the lowest price technically acceptable, you already know who they're going to pick, the 152, if that's what they're going by with that rate. And you determine that from when you go down here and start looking at the information, right? So we already talked about, and they're just telling you what these different roles are, the labor categories. But say if it's work on site, okay, we're a contractor. Okay, so let's put contractor. Okay, so now look at you see how those rates change, because now we're working on site as a contractor. All right, they're telling you 15 years of experience for a technical writer, 3. And then you can look up more information on it. But if you're a journeyman and you're dealing with enterprise IT, and they're just telling you that's around $92. All right, so you got to look real deep and start learning these. Okay, say you're a program analyst expert. So then they're already telling you what one of the rates is for 15 years. Now, these are other people's schedules, but I'm telling you, it's best that you use what's in the competitive range, and you don't want to underpay yourself, but you don't want to overpay yourself either, right? You want a modest salary, and then if you can generate a little profit in it, that'd be nice. Okay, then they even got down here, so you just keep looking, learning all. So say you have to have a site clearance, yes, well then that pricing is going to be a little different. Okay, so if you have a clearance, put that in there. Yes, I have a clearance. If no, that's a different rate. I'm telling you right now, that's a different rate, because that's a different expertise. Then you're going to have access to different classified information, all that other stuff. So then if you want to go small businesses, or other than, when you see other than, that's normally large, small businesses. Okay. Then the contract year, they don't just have 1 and 2 up in here. So basically those are the ones. And then let's see what the categories. Do they have anything for the categories in here? Yes, they do have them. So if we want to do professional services and see what they all have for the professional service, so let's see if they even let us do that. Yes, because it then narrowed it down to 34. And this is 1 out of 20 out of 34. And then you see what the range is for those different things of that nature. But you still got to find out what the title is. You have to go by the title, because I'm telling you, that's what they're going to look for. Even when we create our IGCE, as an acquisition person, I use this tool right here when I'm creating my IGCEs, my independent government cost estimates. This is what I use. This is the tool that I use. So if I'm using this tool, you best believe this is what they're going by. This is what the contracting officers and contract specialists be looking at, because we want to make sure we're have a competitive range. And then of course, because we're the taxpayer keeper, we have to make sure that the rate is transparent. It's not, we're not giving favoritism and all that. And then it's in the competitive range and it's a fair and reasonable price. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say, so you got to search the job title. And then if they have different states, because sometimes the different states have a different rate as well. So sometimes you will have to go look at the rate for the state. And I believe that is in, they have another tool up in here as well, but I want to make sure you know how to use this tool. But sometimes they will change it according to the state. So I just want to make you aware of that. And then you can see what the large business is paying too. So if the large paying is one thing, what are the smalls doing? So that'll help you with that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, beta SAM. Okay, well, not beta. I mean, the best SAM.gov reports to start with. So when I say the contract reports, that is in the SAM bank. Okay, so let me get my notes for that. Okay. So what records I recommend? So the contract award summary, and that tells you who's buying what. Then if you want to look at the small business goaling, right, to find out small business friendly agencies, the people, the agencies who actually are awarding the contracts to the smalls. All right. Then you want to look at the dollars obligated by NAICS. So who bought that NAICS code, and validate your NAICS code research. And then awards by location. That means where your target areas, where they work, where the work is performed. And then if you want to look at the top 100 contractors, if you're trying to identify teaming and subcontracting, okay, and why I recommend them. So when you go over here, all right, you're going to go to the SAM.gov. Then you're going to go on data bank. That's where you go to find all of the reports. All right, the SAM.gov reports support analysis of the federal award life cycle. The data bank allows you to download or run reports on various domains depending on the domain. There are different types of reports are available, and they range. They're different reports. So that's why I always recommend you go to the SAM.gov training on YouTube and learn what each report is for, because that way you'll know what data. Now, the ad hoc is you building the reports. And sometimes you just, when you're a small business, you limited on time, I'm going to the standard report. As you grow, and then you can have one person who's dedicated to pull them the reports, because you have several people on the team, and that's different. So it behooves you to go in here and learn what these different reports are. So let me show you the reports. Oh, hold on. Let me click back on it because they didn't took away some of the reports. Let's pull it. Okay, let me hit refresh. Okay, hold on. Go back to this. I think it was in here. Okay. Oh, this is the other one. This is where I was telling you about the small business goaling. And then you see the top 100. So that's why I was saying this one right here. Then we have the standard, then administrative. That is for if you're a government. So don't even try to get an administration. You're not getting in it. So these reports, and then the ad hoc, that's when you build in your report. But I'm going to go back here, because these are the reports that we were talking about, that I was talking about when I said the best reports. So let me go back to the slide so you can see what I was talking about. The best reports, the contract, you see the small business goal and report. So let's talk about the small business. Okay, why I recommend it. This shows how the federal government is spending that went to small businesses by agency and category. Now, how to use it. You'll see if the target agency is hitting their small business goals. Then you're going to focus on agencies that constantly contract with small businesses. And that way you can gather the proof points for your outreach and emails, right? And then, you know how sometimes we always put in our emails, okay, I noticed your agency awarded $2.3 million to small businesses under NAICS code 5611 last year. Basically, you're just trying to get touch points on how you're going to talk to the agency. So then that's that small business goal right there. All right here. And you see they only got 23, 22, and 21. And they just said 23. That's new. They just populated this one. So I always recommend you just click on it. It's a PDF. You can scroll through. But for the sake of the training, I have to keep moving. But I'm just showing you where to go get the reports. Okay. Then the top 100 contractors report right here. So that way you can go on there. So what I use the top 100 reports for, okay? This is optional. You can do it if you want to. Why I recommend it is to find potential team and partners for the top 100 report. That's where you define those potential team and partners or primes if you're aiming to only subcontract. If that's what your aim is, subcontract, this is what you need to be looking at, because this right here, you're going to use it to find who holds the large contracts in that NAICS. Then you're going to research their past awards to see if you can support them. Do the research. Do not just go reaching out. I've had so many, just go reach out to the prime contractor. You don't know how you're going to support them, where you're going to support them, what area they need you in. So what you do is you go look at their website. When you pull this report, then just like with anything, you're going to go look at their website. You're going to research them to see, are they looking for someone? And then that reason why I say top 100, because you go to the first one, they don't respond. They move to the second. They don't respond. Move to the third one. And then you just have a little rinse and repeat. Okay, well, I'm going to try to touch point again with the first one again. But you keeping it moving, because when somebody is responsible, that's the one you want to work with, the people that are responsive. So that's the top 100 report that I always recommend that you pull, because these ports already, they got them already ready for you. And you just can keep looking at all the different reports. They have the federal procurement reports out here. They have so many good reports that you can pull information and just analyze it and see how it can help you do your job and to learn more about that agency. And in our example, we're using Department of Defense. Okay, so that's it for these reports, I believe. That's the ones I have for that one. Now, the standard reports, they'll have you sign in for those. I remember now you have to sign in for the standard reports and to pull those different reports. But sometimes they'll let you look at it. So let me go back. I'm going to hit home. Then I'm going to hit contracting again. Then you're going to hit data, because that way you can refresh and see if they'll let you look at the standard report. So you can leave. No, they won't. You do have to sign in to get access to those reports. Okay, so you will have to sign in to get access to those reports. And those reports that I was recommending that you pull when you sign in to get access to those reports, but at least the good thing about it is you can get these few reports to get started. The goaling, and then for the other ones, you have to sign in. And so let me go back to the slide. Okay, so for the contract award, that's on the standard report. And how you use the contract award standard, you have to sign in for that account. I'm sorry about that, y'all. I didn't remember that you have to sign in for some of these accounts. What I recommend when you use that report gives you the big picture view of awarded contracts, right? Remember how we were going through the SAM.gov, just looking at individuals? Well, this one will give you the overall for the entire year. And then you can pull it out, download it into an Excel or a Google Sheet, and then create pivot tables. And then that way you can see the NAICS codes. Then you can look at the place of performance, because you're looking for anything in the local area, because you don't want to have to deal with travel, especially now that we're back in person. Everything we're doing mostly now is back in person. You know, before we were doing the remote, so you could be in California going after something in Maryland. Nowadays, I recommend you stay in the local area, because they're requiring that you come in person on these contracts now. It's not the way it used to be. So now we have to just adjust, right? Anything we have to adjust. So that report, you can use that. And then what you use that report for to see what agencies are awarding contracts in your field. So if you're IT, you're looking for IT. If you're data entry, you're doing data entry. If you design, or if you're an engineer, you're looking for those different opportunities. And then stay within your state so you can get there and see how much you're spending, right? And then understand the trends in the services. Okay, do they buy this service every quarter? Are they buying it monthly? Start learning those trends so you'll know. Don't waste your time going on after something that they only purchase this service twice a year. You know what I'm saying? It's not every quarter. It has nothing for the goals that you've set. So that is in the standard reports. Okay. And then the awards by location. If I'm not mistaken, that one is also in the standard report. And I apologize that I didn't notice that you had to be signed in to get those extra reports. And then also the dollars obligated by NAICS, because we want to know, have they only purchased this twice or many a times? So then I have a chance to get offered these opportunities, and that's going to help you. All right, so let's move to the next slide. All right, building relationships. All right, people, do not underestimate the building of relationships, because I've gotten most of my contracts, my subcontract, because I've only been doing subcontracting because it just allowed me to do more and then also build my business at the same time. So I made a conscious business decision that I was only going to focus on subcontracting. Now, if you've made a business decision to do subcontracting and prime contracting, it is very necessary for you to build relationships, because you got to know who's who are you competing against, because you're going to be competing against large businesses, right? You're going to be talking, and then you're a small business, you're just getting started. You don't have the resources that the large businesses have. So you got to be very mindful of that. So that's why I always tell our small business, that is one of our things we have to put on that calendar, building those relationships. All right. Because you have to understand it takes time to build relationships, and with agencies and team and partners. However, you have to start connecting now. You have to start connecting with other small businesses who will help you gain industry knowledge and to be successful in the government marketplace. All right. Because building those relationships are going to help you, because now it's going to open up doors to unposted opportunities. I've told you several times, because you're going after small buys, all of that is not going to appear on SAM.gov. So you're going to want to have a relationship with the contracting officers, the program managers, the small business specialists. They can open up those doors and tell you about those things that are not being posted. So that way you'll know, hey, they know that you're doing acquisition support, and they'll reach out to you. Hey, are you available? Or they'll send you an email, because that you're going to get some emails sometimes from the contracting officers because they haven't posted opportunities. But like I said, vet it, because you want to make sure it's not a scam. And they will send it out to 3 vendors or 4 they might have in their interested vendors list. And then, because your goal is to get on all of those interested vendors lists, to get into subcontracting portals of those prime contractors so they can reach out to you, and keep your information updated. Keep all your information updated, because they could be reaching out to you and then your email has changed or your phone number has changed, and then they're not going to be able to contact you, and therefore you're not going to be able to get the opportunity, because not all opportunities are posted. So I just want you to be aware of that. And then once you have to then attend those agency outreach events. I've done the virtual ones and I've done the in-person ones, and then the small business matchmaking, because sometimes you want some of them. You'll go in, you'll see, oh yeah, because this agency is not for me. They only want large businesses and not small business. So that's why it's important that you attend those outreach events so you can see who actually that the agency is working with. And you just sitting up there continually trying to get introduction or meeting, and then it's not you, it's just they only want to work with established businesses. But had you attended some of those events and learned a little bit more about the agency and done that research, you will see they don't buy from smalls, they buy from large businesses. And then follow the contracting officers and small business specialists. I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to get hard. They're not going to always answer the email. Sometimes you're going to email them 5, 6, 7 times and they're still not going to respond, because sometimes you go all the way to the bottom of that email and sometimes they never circle back. So that's why it's important that you don't take it personal. Just continue to follow up. Don't pass. You just, figure out a way. Okay, I'm going to send an email this time. Then I'm going to make a phone call. Then I'm going to send another email, or I'll try to reach them out on maybe on a different social media. Let me see if this person is always traveling or out of the office. I mean, it's definitely challenge. It's definitely a challenge sometimes getting hold to the contracting officers because they're busy. I'm telling you, they're putting out these opportunities for you. They're doing the evaluations. They're doing the industry days. They're doing a lot of things. So sometimes it's not meant to just not respond, but sometimes it can be that way. But do not give up. Continue, continue, continue. And always introduce your company early before the opportunity posts. That's why I'm telling you, build the relationships before the opportunities come out so you can start seeing who it is that you want to work with. Do I really want to work with this company right here? Or, because say you work with another individual and you start building a relationship, you see, well, they're a little abrasive. I really don't want to work with them, because then they might come off and then that's going to be a representation of me on this contract as well. So you got to look at all of those things that comes with building a relationship. Okay. And then, so the next thing, we talked about the building of the relationships. Now let's prepare for our counseling session. As we continue to learn from these different trainings that we're attending, we've got to make sure that we are applying it immediately. So what I ask for you is, before you leave or when you leave this week, make it your business to create your safe search in SAM.gov. All right. How you do that is, you just go to that SAM.gov, you go to home, you go to contract opportunities, then you hit that event search, you go find, you create your filters. Remember, that's why I always tell you, get your little cheat sheet, create your filters, get your keywords, find out, use that help guide to help you build it, because it's a certain way you have to do it. Then, but when you do that, you have to be signed in. So if you don't have an account yet with SAM.gov, I recommend, it's free. There's plenty of training out there on how to create that SAM.gov. All you do is go to that home, you right here, register your entity or get a unique entity ID. This is your part you got to do. Get started. And I'm telling you, you can then save those searches and start learning about it. Everything is 100% free. If you get an email saying that pay this and pay that, official US government website, 100% free. Now you got that registration. You've went in here to the contracting opportunity. You hit advanced search. Now you've created those filters. All right. So I want to look at let's just do janitorial services. No, you know what? Let's do just using the filters. We're not going to do our keyword search. We're going to do Department of Defense 9700. All right. So we already know we're looking up all of Department of Defense. Now we're only looking for solicitations. Okay. Because we want to go after something. We actually want to bid on an opportunity that we can win. Remember, because we've done all this research up to now. Now we want to win. You'll see the award notifications. And this is a great example. This one is letting you know someone this purchase. They sent it to the awardee. You click on it. This is the award notification. So you know you can look up awards in here. Then you click on the notification. Then you can see how much they purchased it for. You see that? You see they purchased it right here. So that's why I tell you, there's no reason why we can't take our time, do the research, see what opportunities are out here. And they already told you what this was. It was printing, duplicating, and book binding equipment. And then they told you the NAICS code. So this is telling you what the purchase was, and they told you who purchased it. They gave you POCs, everything. There's no way. This is when they had posted, this is when they awarded. Okay, so we're looking right now for solicitations to win. So now you've done your research, you've looked up your NAICS code, you've looked up your NAICS code. Let me go back to the slide because I want to make sure you got it all in there. So that's how you create it. So you've identified those top 3 NAICS and PSC codes. You've already downloaded the report in SAM's data bank, and you've done your update. And then you reviewed the labor rate using the calc and quick rate sheet. And we created the save search because we got the notification from creating that save search, letting us know this job was available because we've done all of this. So that's why I'm telling you right now, we just walked through that in this training. And now your job is to go take this same training we've done, and now you create that. Okay, hold on, let me go back to it. Okay, so then we're going to go in here. You already know we want to go after a solicitation. So you go down here because this is how you create the save search. All right, you signed in, you put your filters in, what agency you're looking for. Okay, now we're going to put it back in because it came out 9700, Department of Defense. Now we want to look at solicitations we can actually win. And that's when you're going to hit right here, solicitation. And then combined solicitation, because all the combined solicitation is instead of them putting the sources sought notice out there, then come back and publish it to a solicitation, they try to do it all together. They're going to tell you everything at one time. Here, this is what we're going to do. This is what we need. And we're going to, boom, we're just doing it one time. We're not going to go through all that. We're going to do it one time. So now you see what's available. Say your NAICS code was 54. No, we're going to do PSC code. We could do NAICS or PSC, but you can do the 54 16 11 because that's your NAICS code. Now you see all the opportunities that are current. Now, because this one is due October 13, 2025, so you got plenty of time. They just updated. This is the opportunity that I want to go after. And then what you do is you save it. You'll see a button that tells you to save the search. So it always notify you of all these different opportunities for this NAICS, for this. And so you're just going to set it up and say you only want this place of performance to be Maryland. So you only want to go after all things Maryland. This is how you save your search. So every time it will let you know what is the certification. I apologize for all the different opportunities that's out here. So then you put in Maryland. Hold on, let me put M. Okay, and then Maryland. And then it's going to save this search and you'll get a notification once you set this up, and it'll tell you, okay, so we only have 2 opportunities, and it'll populate just like this in your saved search. Because I was trying to look for my information because I was going to try to log into my account so you can see that. But for the sake of time, I have to continue the training. But I wanted to go over these. But they have plenty of videos on here to show you how to save the search. Then once you get that notification, then you walk through those processes. So that way you can win those opportunities. If you're not bidding, then you're not winning. If you're not looking up at these different opportunities, you will not be able to win any contracts because you haven't went out there and looked, and you're not receiving the notifications, and then you're not responding. You have to respond to be able to win. And so, but you want to be able to respond to small opportunities that you have a chance of winning. Those complex 20 pages, 30 pages, you don't have time for that one right now because you're still learning. You're still learning what all is involved in those. And those requirements can get very complex, and it can have a lot of attachments, a lot of things that they want. That's why we recommended you start small with a small buys. Okay. All right. So that is your homework for this week. And this will help you prepare for your counseling session, because as you're doing the work, you'll have questions. Then just make a note of those questions so that way you can bring them up in that counseling session. Okay. And once you bring those up in the counseling sessions, then the counselor can help you with answering a lot, because sometimes they're going to be unique to your company. They're going to be unique to your company, and you need to be able to answer those questions. They need to be able to answer those unique to your business, because there's different requirements for different industries. Okay. And before I go to the next slide, let me talk about the training first. All right. And then more training to help you grow. So August, we have the intro to proposal writing level 1. And then in September, we have the proposal writing level 2. Now, we had these same trainings last year, but this time we're going deeper, because we built, when we first gave the training, we got a lot of input and a lot of questions. So the training was updated to add those questions like we did with this training, making it more concise, answering more questions, really catering to our small businesses. Well, in the proposal writing level 2, we did the same thing for that training, as well as the cost proposal development, because like we said, we keep teaching you how to, and we separated how to navigate the class that's in December. We separated that from this class today, because we used to have it combined, how to navigate contracting in the defense industry base, basically government. And same thing. But we pulled it out to another class so we can dive deeper in just deeper into that. And this class was more on teaching you how to find these small buys, how to prepare yourself for the small buys. And then each session was designed to build. So that's why I said, when you miss a session, like the effective, how to do the effective market research, then we dived in here, you might be kind of lost in some of those things. But that's why I say, go back and watch that training for the effective market research, so then you can already have your database. Because what we're doing with this training is we're building the system in your Google Drive. This is the Google Drive that I created for when we first start. So you'll see that the folders are going to, you're going to have the proposal folder, because we're creating the proposal library, and so forth and so on. So when you leave this year from this training, you've walked through the entire phase. So when you come in next time for training, it's just refining it. And now all we're doing is keep refining it, and then once you hire people on in your team, then they can watch the training. And that way you have a way to train your team so you can grow. You see what I'm saying? So everything we're doing is all meant to just get you keep moving down to the next step. So when we go to that training in the intro to proposal writing, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to go, we're going deep. You're going to have your library set up. You're going to have, and then in the slides, I will show you how to start putting your libraries, your templates, and so forth and so on. So now I got to pause again before to make sure I answer all the questions for this before we get ready to close out. Okay. Yes, and I'm going to answer the questions because I'll get started again.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Akeisha. All right. So let's go through. I'll do from the most recent one.
Okay.
Somebody's asking where I can find your recording from the effective market research. I will post that link in the chat. All the recordings are on our YouTube channel. So I'll make sure that I put that in there, and you can find all the recordings there. Hopefully that will help. I have been looking for contract opportunities since June, but there only seem to be a few opportunities in Maryland. Is that normal? My industry is renovations, painting, and flooring.
Oh, so, okay, you said in Maryland. Now, when you say in Maryland, are we talking about federal or are we talking about state? So we are talking about you on SAM.gov looking for opportunities in the state of Maryland, or are we talking about EMMA, the e-Maryland marketplace, where all of the state opportunities are posted? So I just want to clarify that I'm answering the correct question. We talking about federal or we talking about state?
Okay, they responded and said federal.
Okay, good. Okay, so now federal, because even though you're talking about the state of Maryland in federal, right? Is this agency located, first of all, in the state of Maryland? You got to go look up these agencies to see where their headquarters is. And then you said renovations. Now, if they don't have a budget for renovations, then they're not going to put it out, especially given that the administration change and everything else just changed. We're having to be we have to be very flexible because they canceled a lot of those opportunities due to the changes. So the renovations and stuff that was out there before, because we had plenty out there, because I've seen all those they were out there for federal. Now this is for federal, but when the administration changed, a lot of those contracts got canceled. So now we have to go back and look at what is approved, number one, for renovations, and then it's a different website. But I recommend, if you really focus on Maryland, you're going to have to go to that state, the Maryland state training, because they show you all the different websites you're going to have to go through, because federal, not so much now with the administration change, and a lot of the contracts was and a lot of the proposed solicitations for renovations got canceled as well. So definitely attend that doing business with the state of Maryland, because they had a lot of them on there. Plus they were talking about the different up and coming projects that they needed the renovation services for. So you're definitely going to have to attend that training right there.
Yes, that's a very good training that they do. I'll also put that link in there.
Yes,
okay, the next question is, what happens if we mess up on our deliverable? For example, if we have a sub that doesn't deliver on time.
Hello?
Hi, did you hear the question?
Oh, no, you cut all the way out. Yes, I didn't hear anything.
Sorry about that. I'll repeat it.
Okay.
The person was asking about if they mess up on the deliverable. For example, if a sub that they have doesn't deliver on time.
Well, if a sub, now remember, the prime is responsible for the sub. If they don't deliver on time, do you have an alternate subcontractor that will? I mean, what is the because they're going to send you the cure notice. The prime contractor is going to get the cure notice saying, hey, you didn't deliver, you didn't do this right, you didn't, and it's going to affect your contracting performance assessment report, that's CPARS. So I always recommend primes, when you have these subs, how many subs do you have in your bench? Then you source it out to plenty of your subcontractors to see, make sure that they can fulfill this, because if they don't fulfill it, then you are responsible for fulfilling that. So they don't see the subcontractor, they see them as an extension to you. That's your responsibility. You need to get on them, or you need to have another person to deliver and then give them what was in that contract terms if they didn't deliver on time. What was in that contract and agreement that you created with that, because you have to have your subcontracting agreement when you bring these subs on, and what was the repercussions of it. So that's going to be paramount, but you have to deliver that, even if they don't. And then you find out they didn't deliver, you're going to take that gig, but you better make sure it gets there. You're going to get it because that was your subcontract.
Okay. Next question is, I received a direct solicitation, but I lost on price. How do you make money if everybody wants a cheap price?
Well, it depends. Okay, number one, it depends on the service, because sometimes we overthink things, right? So we'll say it takes 40 hours to get this task done, right? But in actuality, they found somebody who can do that same task for 20 hours. And by the way, they're charging a cheaper rate, because this is just the way it is. A lot of the large businesses, they can take hits on certain contracts and they just make up for it in another contract. That's why it's important that you know what your break-even point is. Number one, what's your break-even? Okay, we know I got to make $25,000. So if I got to make 20, you want to have to make sure that contract is there, break-even or more, and you're not going to win it. You're not going to win them all, because a lot of these contracts, they're asking for lowest price technically acceptable. What I recommend is, if you see as lowest price technically acceptable and they lowballing, why waste your time going after it? Go after something that you actually can win at the price that you want and that you're competitive, because there's still going to be people who underbid the contract just to win, and they're notorious for doing that. because they can take the hit. They can underprice this contract just so they can get into this agency. But us as small business, we can't take that. So it's a business decision. Do I go after this opportunity? I've looked in here, I've seen my research. They constantly underbidding on this contract. I knew that they underbid on this contract, but I went after it anyway. Now, if this is a new requirement, not a recompete, the recompete is, I've seen this come out here several times over and over again, and they do the same thing. Now, a new requirement, I'm going to go do the same research. I'm going to see how much they have bought this service for, because I at least want to be in a competitive range. Now, but I'm telling you, in every industry, you're going to have people that's going to lowball. They're going to take the contract from you because they lowballed it. Your job is to make sure, okay, did I have time enough to respond to this? How much is it going to cost me to respond to this? And you're going to have to do the math and make a business decision, and you will get underbid. That's the nature of this game. It's just like the Olympics. Some people gonna run faster than the others, but that don't mean you don't compete in the Olympics just because you ain't gonna win every one of the gold medals, the contract award, because you need to keep practicing. And then if you know that agency always give it to the lowest price, technical, acceptable, don't go after it. I'm not going to waste when I see that all they do is lowest price, technically acceptable, and I cannot pay my staff and myself with that rate, don't go after it. You just can't do
it. Okay, great. This is why I love having Akeisha teach, because she tells it like it is. Okay, next question. This is an interesting one. Can I use the same business name for multiple sectors like janitorial and data entry services? And if yes, how do I manage the branding for both? Now, I know you've talked in the past about putting all kinds of different NAICS codes down and how that's not appropriate. Do you want to expand on that?
Okay, so you trying to use the same name, which, I mean, you can do that. Just like me, I would say Key to Life Professional Services, and I can do rental properties, and I can do acquisition support. So, even though we got the same name, you still going to have different branches because you still got to have a different NAICS code, because rental is a different NAICS code than acquisition support. So you already know that's your differentiator. But guess what? I'm not going to put my rental stuff on there when I'm sending out my capability stuff. The only thing they're going to see on my capability statement is my acquisition support, because that's what they're asking for. Now, that's why I always tell y'all to customize them capability statements. Yes, you may offer different services, but if they have nothing to do with the other thing and you're using that name and your branding and different things of that nature, you still have to have a method to the madness, or they're gonna say, you sell everything, you just can do everything, huh? But you a party of one. That doesn't work. It doesn't even align. Now, if you're a party of two, maybe you can get away with it, that person running that division and that. But the simple fact of the matter is, even when you have that same name, right? And you're gonna have to use a different NAICS, and that's a different PSC code. They are not the same. Then you create that capability statement, that value proposition, that everything for that NAICS and PSC code only. And then you already saved it, you've done the research, you branded it, you got it looking good, and it's all toward that. Then you have to do the exact same thing. You have to customize it for that. So when people ask you for your rental, you send them the rental. I'm doing rental property management for my KTL, and I branded it totally different. But then when I'm doing my acquisition support, then that one is branded a little bit, but it's the same name. It's same name. Or if you feel like you want to do it a little different, then you can do a trade name. Okay, buy one of those trade names, and that way everything is under that little LLC, But there's different ways to do it, and that's why you have to get you a lawyer, all those different people to help do that stuff, so that way you can do it the right way. And that way it looks good, and you following the rules, because some of them you might have to have, like with the rental and some of those property management rules are, you got to have a license, a broker's license, or somebody, that's different rules for that one, versus with acquisition, you got to have certification. So it can be done. It's just you have to take the time out to set up each and then do different capability. You can't put all that stuff on one capability statement. I'm telling you, you can't do it all.
Okay, well, that looks like that's all the questions for today.
Okay.
I've just posted some further links in the chat. pointing to our recorded classes. You can find all of Akeisha's classes recorded on our YouTube channel as well as other classes as well. Plus a link to register for future classes. And we also have an introductory government contracting roadmap. For those of you who are feeling overwhelmed as to where to start, it takes you step by step through, I believe, 10 classes to just give you a good foundation of what to expect as a contractor. So yes, as Akeisha says, her next class is going to be next month. An introductory proposal writing class. So definitely make sure you register for that. And you will see that on our training page, plus all the rest of her training throughout the end of the year. So I'd like to thank Akeisha so much for another excellent, thorough class. Really appreciate this because it is a lot of information to take in. And thank you all for giving up 2 hours of your time today to participate in this. If you have applied to get an Apex counselor, please bear with us. We only have 5 counselors, so we're trying to get through the backlog. There's a lot of demand, but we definitely will get to you, and we hope that all this training will keep you going till we can reach you. All right. Well, thanks, Akeisha. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. See you again soon.
All right. Bye, y'all, everyone.
Bye-bye.